Thanks very much. So over to the panelists. This time I start with Madam Linda Kasonde. So if you may keep your responses short so that we get more questions from the audience. Thank you.
I'll respond to Ms. Esna Zulu's question about Lungu. Okay, sorry. About how women can get a seat at the table. I think first and foremost, we're socialized to believe that men can make decisions on behalf of women. And I think the first port of call is for women to realize that it's important for them to make decisions for themselves, for the reasons I highlighted earlier, because the lived experiences of men are very different and varied from those of women. Women's experiences are also varied, and it's not enough to just have one woman representing everybody. Once you see the need, and it's not just a nice to have, it's an actual need for women to be at the decision-making table. Just like the story I gave about the warring people fighting over a dry river. If you see the need and know that you have something to contribute to resolve the issues that women are facing, and not just women, it's not just about women's issues. Women also have a different perspective on other issues that affect everyone more broadly. But it's a need, it's not a nice to have. So I think once we accept that, we'll change our mindset around whether or not we should put ourselves forward and have a seat at the table.
Thank you. Landelani, then we'll come to the President. Your short comment?
I think my very short comment is in the overall questions that have been asked as to whether we actually need Bill 7 or we don't. And I think that I'll throw back the question back to the audience. Do we need constitutional reforms or do we not? Can we have a perfect constitution or can we not? I think that there is an important need to reform what we have in the current constitution in 2016. We do need constitutional reform. Do we need it in the manner that has been presented by the government, yes or no? In my opinion, I think that the manner in which the government has presented it is not in the way that we need constitutional reform. I think the wider question that we do need to ask ourselves is, do we need constitutional reform? In my opinion, yes, we do. What are the areas? There are many. Some of them addressed in the current Bill 7 in a way that is to a large extent undesirable, but we do need constitutional reform. That should not be a mistake that we can make. We need constitutional reform, we need constitutional implementation. But we also need to have a very honest dialogue about how we achieve it. So,
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks very much. Mr. President, the question to you is, suppose the bill is not dropped completely, what would LAZ do?
Thank you. And I think that question speaks to what must the consultations that have necessitated the deferment of Bill 7 of 2025 look like. Where we sit now, I have taken that government is saying, okay, we have had so much apprehension about the process that we have commenced. We hear you, civil society, we hear you, citizens, about why you are concerned with the current process in terms of process as well as content. Now, tell us, what must we do with this bill and going forward? One of the answers could be, from the consultations and the citizens' reaction, we want to believe and persuade government that we must not even proceed with this process. That's one result. Another result could be citizens will tell government and say, no, the process can be improved in this way. How? Let us do one or two things and include more stakeholders to this process. Another third result would be that citizens and stakeholders will say the content can also be improved in this way, either in terms of what is proposed to resolve for by-elections, maybe not to eliminate citizens from that participation, but maybe there's another methodology to address the challenge, or from your 13, there are additional areas that could be added to address the problem. Now, where we are is to have those conversations, and I think that's why this public forum is important. What must we be telling government in these consultations? Is it no, yes, but, or no to this, but to that? And as LAZ, we are duty-bound to provide a platform so that we come with a result that we can tell government about the way forward. It would be unfair for LAZ to start preparing how to block the next way forward if government doesn't stop before giving citizens an opportunity to really interrogate whether that process should be terminated entirely or should be altered going forward. So I think we are now focusing on the consultations and what they must result in terms of the current process. I thank you.
Thanks very much, Mr. President. State Council, your question is, what do we do going forward since we have wasted 60 years? Thank you.
Yeah. Now, before I come, Dr. Kab, indulge me for a moment to, Dr. Banda was one of my students. I think you must have missed one of my lectures. I can't remember how good your attendance was. Here is my take. Guys, we don't need reform of the Constitution. We don't. There are priorities. There are bigger challenges. This is a luxury. Okay? First, no constitution in the world is perfect. You can never have a perfect constitution. And that is why the Constitution itself says, if there is a problem, you go to the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court will guide. Okay? So by that definition, by that provision, there is an acknowledgement that the Constitution is imperfect. Okay? Because if it was perfect, there would have been no need for the Constitutional Court. Okay, so there is already an inbuilt mechanism to sort out its imperfections. For example, when we went to do with the issue of the 2016 election, okay, we went to court, and the court finally guided to say, well, you know what, a petition must be concluded within 14 days. We were guided, and later on the Chief Justice issued a statutory instrument that now addresses how election petition ought to be conducted. That is how you build on the law. How many times have seen your own foundation of your homes looked at every year? Who looks at the foundation of his house every year? Who does? Huh? Tell me. That is what the Constitution is. You only look at the Constitution when you see cracks. Isn't that what we do? Our homes, when we see that walls are cracking, that's when we call people to say, can you shore up the foundation, isn't it? So, the same with the Constitution. You must be able to point to some cracks, some problems which threaten the very existence of the country. Okay? Just like a foundation for your house. When you see cracks, you know that the entire superstructure, that whatever is on top, what do? Is in danger. Okay? That's when you bring in people. You don't do that every year. So why should we be doing that to the Constitution? Okay? So no constitution is ever perfect, and I'm sorry I disagree with Dr. Banda here. We do not need it. Okay? All reasons. Okay? It's a long history, starting way back in